So what did you do to prepare yourself to be the spearhead of the IDF's innovation department? And when was the first time you started thinking that was a good idea?
Well, I got my draft letter from the Army, so that was the initial point where it was a bit too late. I couldn't make the decision. But overall, it comes down to networking. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you know that you're in a situation and you're going to be forced to join the Army, may as well make the best of it. And met an amazing group of people and a very long path that led me to finding where I am today.
The best of it, for those of you who don't know, Ilan is changing the Air Force from the inside out. So I think that's more than the best of it. Second question for you. What can you say from your background that you find is useful to you in your job in the Air Force?
The fact that every time I speak English, I don't, speak with an accent. Has definitely helped even within the military. Walking in, you can see I don't have any ranks. I sit in a position where I'm meeting with major generals on a regular basis, and they walk in and see, wait, what the heck is this guy doing in here? Why is there a private in my office? They're very confused, but then all of a sudden start to talk, albeit in a bit, not the most fluent Hebrew, but good enough Hebrew. And having that American mindset and that understanding of a culture outside of Israel is something that's been very, very valuable in setting me up to where I am today, and knowing how things can be, whether it's looking at the way the military can function or the postal service, the banking system here, looking at problems in Israel not as problems but as potential solutions.
So, I think this isn't working anymore. Hello? So I know you had an opportunity to leave the Army in the middle to go to the private sector, but this very special person decided to turn it down to stay serving the country. Why'd you do that?
Because meaning is something that's very important to me. And today I was actually came across an old email that I'd sent you when I first moved to Israel, and I sent him a ton of emails, and so I apologize for that. But karma comes back at you, because now, thank God, I've been very, very lucky to find myself, and every single day I get an email from, whether it's somebody from my old university or an ole asking for the same advice. So, but coming back to ask the question again, I forgot where I was going with that.
Might have been my bad English. I know you had an offer to leave the Army at some point to go to the private sector. Why'd you stay?
So it's coming back to the meaning, but it's all about the meaning. I sit here as a lone soldier, getting paid a lone soldier salary, and definitely not in it for the money. But you have to be a little bit crazy to move to Israel, I think. And there are many people in the room, Michael and his family included, that chose to make the move. And there's a lot of good things happening all around the world, but there's a lot of difficulties here as well. And so finding that meaning, whatever you do, whether it's in startups, venture capital, or joining the military, is so key. So finding this place, seeing what I can do as somebody 1 year into their military service is quite amazing.
I don't want to correct you because you have a higher rank than I do, but I actually don't think we're crazy for moving here. I think we're like the most fortunate generation ever to be able to move here. So
I'll agree to that extent. My father used to live here, and he lived here at a time when there was no air conditioning on buses. So I don't know how anyone did that. But I want to go and ask you a couple questions.
that was part of the deal.
So if everyone doesn't know, Michael writes a blog called 6 Kids and a Full-Time Job. It's, I believe, 2 kids behind. But besides blogging, running a fund with almost $400 million, investing in amazing companies, family, skiing, whatever it is, writing a sefer, writing a book, how the heck do you have time to do that and find meaning in your life and just make it all happen?
I interviewed someone for a job at Aleph today, and I asked her what she is best in class at or best in the world at. I won't tell you her answer, but I think it's a useful thing to think about. Everybody in the world has a skill that they're particularly good at. I think I have 2. One is I always manage to make myself the dumbest person in the room. Surrounding yourself with smarter people than you is, I think, the key to success in everything you do. That's how you learn more. That's how you're challenged more. That's how you grow more. It's true in marriage too. And you need to find people that are smarter than you, convince them that they want to do business with you or work with you, And that way you make yourself better. So I'm particularly successful in being the dumbest person in the room. But the second thing is in today's day and age, there are lots of opportunity to waste time. We've got this thing in our pocket, which is like ringing all the time, even when it's on silent. It's got Facebook and Twitter and House Party and Snapchat and other things, and we have endless distractions to go around here and go there, and friends. We can find friends so easily now. I have not nearly as many friends as my children have by far. And everything in the world we live in today is a distraction, and I am best at maximizing time. I literally can say I don't waste time. Some people think that's antisocial, maybe. But if I'm not learning Torah or working or talking to my kids or something like that, I try not to waste time. And you can pack a lot more into your day and your life. We're only here for a certain period of time on this earth. We might as well maximize every minute.
Good. So now sticking to the time, on to the next question. As you mentioned, and it was mentioned before, I'm in the Air Force's innovation department. The goal of the unit is to make the Air Force more innovative through a bunch of different programs. And not just the Air Force, eventually we're working with the rest of the military, the Israeli police. And just like you think of a company like Google or WeWork, which is known to be very, very culturally innovative. If somebody has an idea, they want to hear about it. And so how do you think the whole concept of teaching innovation, of somebody being an entrepreneur and saying that they are innovative, or is that something that's innate or something that can be taught?
It's like everything in life, there's an 80-20 rule on it. You're either innately innovative or you're not. But innovative is an output. It's not an input. It's not like a characteristic. Innovation comes from a deep desire to change things for the better. I see a problem, I don't walk the other way. I'm often fond of saying, when I go to shul every morning, or come back from shul every morning, I see Eliakim Rubinstein, the Supreme Court Justice, walking to shul every morning. Inevitably, he's picking garbage off the street. And he sees something, he wants to fix it. And I think innovation and change comes from this unique desire to want to make things better. That's the first thing. And the second thing is a curious and open mind. If you're not reading, and when I say reading, I don't mean Facebook posts, I mean books, and you're not challenging yourself with complex things and just being curious about the world around, you'll never be innovative. So the best way to teach innovation is to convince people to read and to read things that they don't understand so that they have to look it up and figure it out, etc. Facebook posts rarely do that.
Agreed.
By the way, I use Twitter a lot. It's basically become my newspaper. I cull my Twitter feed for people who share links about things I either don't know anything about or don't agree with. And that's how I find a kind of mind-expanding activity. And going into fixing things that you'd sort of beyond picking up trash and lower-level issues like that. That's a high-level issue.
Well,
you know, seriously, it's a quality of life issue, and if you see a small problem and fix it, you'll fix a bigger problem.
That's very true. So, but there are lots of issues here on the ground that I'd mentioned briefly before. When I look at finding meaning, and I was at a VC fund before I joined the Army, there's lots of companies out there that are doing cool things. House Party is one of them, raised $52 million after many, many reiterations. So amazing lesson in persistence. If you haven't heard of them, check them out, and check out Michael's blog post about it. But there's so many problems here that are local problems, whether it's the postal service or the lack of an e-commerce. I think the hardest thing for me making Aliyah, yes, I miss my family, Hebrew's tough, Amazon Prime. It kills me. So,
thank God there was no Google Express when you were living in this state.
Yeah, so I think if there was Google Express when I was living there, I wouldn't have made Aliyah. So, but that all aside, how do you invest in companies on a VC side? Those companies have to go international. And how can you expect to fix local problems if every single company is only looking to go international?
I'll answer that two ways. One is, I think it's really easy to look at things that you call problems and I just call growing pains, because it's a 68-year-old startup and America's 300 years old. It's had a lot of time to refine this. And so I just think those are things that are happening, and because the pace of change is so fast, they're happening a lot faster around those things. But if you ask the question as to why innovation happens here that can conquer the world, and compare or contrast it to your point about the local the local problems. If you choose to look at things, lack of Amazon Prime, the broken postal service, I don't ever go there anymore, then you'll see kind of challenges. If you choose to look at people, you'll understand that the quality of your life has improved dramatically by moving here. The quality of the people you find around this country and people who actually care is dramatic in my experience compared to what you find in other places in the world. And I think if you kind of look at people as quality of life instead of the postal service, you'll find that quality of life is up. But to answer your question, I think there's an objective answer to the question, and now something I think is changing, which is objectively, if you want to build a real business, you need a big market. 8 million people is not much of a market. So we can fix that by bringing more people. That would be one way, or going abroad. But what I think is happening now is I have an entrepreneur who I've been working with for the last 3 months. He grew up in abject poverty just outside of Petah Tikva. He was successful at his first startup. He is now starting I probably shouldn't say what kind of company, but a really, really, really innovative company in which the market space is big enough in Israel to make an impact to lift people out of poverty. This morning I spoke at a conference in Beersheba of what they called Asakim Chevratiyim, where people launched companies to help society here. Some of them were tech, some of them weren't. One was a weaving company, a Bedouin weaving company. But I think you're seeing more and more people invest their business skills in trying to improve society here on both a micro and a macro scale. And I think we'll see more of that as the country grows and matures. It's a maturing issue.
And what do you see as the next big industry, big shift in the way we do things, whether VR, cyber?
I should ask you that question.
So for me, it's less of a technical answer, I guess. Coming right back at me, when you look at people itself, one thing I've definitely realized in the military is they're not out there from a soldier standpoint. You see so many soldiers who are so upset about where they are and they're frustrated with the military. And people in Israel as a whole or wherever they are in the world, they're frustrated because things are the way they are. And it annoys them. But being able to look at everything and say, okay, well, the technology is there. It's not hard to go and take Amazon's technology and make Amazon Prime. But it's about people like what Michael said about picking up the trash and going and doing those things. So for me, I think the next big thing is people themselves and more empowerment. So what we do in the unit is we don't look at technology. The technology's there. Yeah, the only technology we really deal with is we've built Product Hunt for the Air Force, which a soldier that has an idea, they sit on the ground, they see something that they think is costing the Army millions of shekels per year, or it's really annoying a lot of soldiers. They submit that issue to the platform, and other soldiers get it voted up, and it goes directly to decision makers. So this is something that allows them to go over the heads of many commanders, and it's not an advanced piece of technology. It's not like the F-35, which just hopefully landed in Israel today. I don't know if it got through the fog on the way over. It did, good to know. So the F-35, the most advanced fighter jet in the world, made it here today, but we're not worried about the technology. It's about the people and people willing to take what's out there and run with it. So I kind of didn't answer my own question. I think... That's why I turned it back on you.
That's why I turned it back on you.
It's a tough question to answer, and that's why I wanted to ask Michael.
I think it's actually really dangerous to try to predict what's going to happen in the future and what industries are kind of next, because that makes you not see the one that actually happening when it comes in front of you. So I don't do trend investing or anything like that. I think the next big thing that happens, nobody knows today, and nobody can predict. Nobody saw Amazon coming. Nobody saw AWS coming. Nobody saw House Party coming. Nobody saw any of these things coming. So, better just be a curious, open mind.
And my last question, so hopefully you got some more for me, but
I do.
In regards to making sure that what's happening here continues, whether it's investing in education or continuing to see companies not just exit early but continue to grow, what is it that we can do to make sure that Israel maintains this startup nation?
So generically, which is back to the last point, I'm long on human skills, meaning I think people have, and the human brain has an incredible capacity to learn more and study more. And in this very, very, very fast-paced innovation economy, laggards and big companies with big infrastructure spends, like banks, are going to have a hard time keeping up. But people need to learn to keep up. Like the idea that I'm going to get a job in General Motors and start on the line and become a director and a vice president and a line manager and whatever over time, gone. So people need to keep reinventing themselves and upskilling themselves over time. So the most important thing anybody can do is to figure out every 2 years what new skill you have. And if we want to kind of keep innovation going here, yes, education, yes, this, pick a new skill. You want to learn a program this year? Learn a program this year. I'd like to learn to read financial statements finally properly. But, pick up a new skill every 2 years. That way you'll keep enhancing your own job prospects and enhance the total skill set here. All right, so I have a question. So when I made Aliyah, it was pre-Nefesh B'Nefesh. It's 23 years ago. That feels like it should be something in history, pre-NBN or something like that. It should go into textbooks.
I didn't know it was possible to make Aliyah pre-Nefesh B'Nefesh.
So that's the point I was about to make, which is we did, and we didn't have, I was going to say many friends, it's actually any friends. And what I would ask you is, what do you do, having now made Aliyah, to create a community for yourself outside of work hours in addition to during work hours?
So I'll give you a quick tip to premise that. If you are part of the startup ecosystem, you never have to pay for a meal or alcohol ever. There is a free meetup very similar to this every single night in Tel Aviv. And so, and Yerushalayim as well, and many other cities throughout Israel. So that's been a big part of it. It's about finding the community, finding the people that are like-minded with you. For me, the startup ecosystem has been something that has been amazing, and many of my friends working at Google or even in not-for-profits that are doing big things. While also working at Nefesh B'Nefesh is also a major part of Made in Jerusalem, which is changing the way the capital, Jerusalem, is viewed. It's not just this ancient city, but a powerhouse in the startup world. So it's about finding those niches, and yes, having a good Shabbos dinner is nice to meet new people. But even there's an app for that called WeMeal that helps you meet people, and so it's about finding those like-minded people across many different ways and getting out there and building the network.
I don't know where our audience is from, but in my experience, the booze is always better in Tel Aviv. The food might be, but I find it more edible with my kippah in Yerushalayim.
That is true, yeah. Kashrut, I think there's more kosher restaurants in Tel Aviv than almost any other city in the world.
It's
but
true, it's unbelievable.
Yerushalayim still wins.
So that's actually a segue to another question. When we moved to Israel, we didn't know any better. We landed in Jerusalem. That's where everyone was 23 years ago. But now there are a lot more options. I think you live in Givat Shmuel. How many people here live in Tel Aviv? That's a large number. Nobody, in my experience, when we met Aliyah 23 years ago, moved to Tel Aviv. And if you were giving advice to people, what would be the criteria upon which to make a decision as to where to live when you move to Israel?
Roommates, yeah, that happens to be my roommate. So, it's about friends. I'd heard about this little city just outside of Tel Aviv called Givat Shmuel when I moved here. I came on a summer program a number of years before I made Aliyah called Birthright Excel, where I worked at a VC fund, and for me it was Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. That was it. And but all of a sudden I heard about this burgeoning young Oleh community living just outside of Tel Aviv. Thought I'd give it a try. So I've been there for the last 2 years, and having, without the family, having that backbone of people who, yes, probably speak a little bit too much English. We are in Israel and should speak more Hebrew, but having that backbone is something that's very important wherever it might be. And so now you're seeing a lot more people that are looking to move to Tel Aviv or other cities because they stick together. So having that group of friends and wherever it might be, it's key in finding where you live. And seeing also where the opportunities are. Startups are, of course, in Tel Aviv, Herzliya area, but there's so much more going on in Haifa, in Beersheba. If I had money, which I'm on an army salary, so I don't, I'd buy property right now in Beersheba, because the things that are going to happen down there on the tech side, where the military is moving down there, it's really going to be an amazing shift towards improving that community and the country as a whole. So invest in Beersheba.
How many of you still have relatives who live in the States or another part of the world? If you were going to give them something to tell their family who still lives in the States as to why they need to move here, what is it?
Culture. It's the only country in the world where somebody will cut you off while driving, and then a few miles up the road when you've run out of gas, pull over and help you out. It's this place where everyone is very competitive, but everyone wants to help each other out. The amount of times I walk into a grocery store and somebody either tries to set me up with their granddaughter or invite me for dinner,
Good idea.
It's amazing. I think that's part of it. Growing up in America and South Africa before that, people are scared of so many different things for their kids and don't let them walk to school. Here, it's normal for the 8-year-old sibling to walk the 5-year-old sibling to school because it's safe enough. And the 8-year-old is the one babysitting the younger sibling. So it's just so much more family-oriented here, and I wouldn't trade that for the world.
And I'll go out on a limb and say that I think there's going to be more economic opportunity here over the next 30 years than there will be in the United States.
I'd agree. I moved here. Thank God I had some great opportunities in New York, but the amount of investment you're seeing here in startups and infrastructure, in everything. This is a country with such a small number of people, which for a growing company is a bit tough, but to be a testing ground and to see amazing growth, there's so much opportunity here. Moving here definitely helped my career and is only going to help it farther as time goes on. So I think it's not just Zionism anymore. It's moving here is actually, it makes a little bit more sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.